Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the US defense industry has witnessed a substantial rise in business. According to Federal Reserve data, industrial production in the US defense and space sector has surged by 17.5% since the onset of Russia's war with Ukraine. The war in Ukraine, tragically, has become a lucrative venture for the private US military-industrial complex, which mainly reflects the big five contractors that are Boeing, General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman and Raytheon. In 2022, except for Boeing because of its alleged supply chain problems, the other four major players saw their market values surge by over $10 billion each. And in terms of share price changes for the same year, Northrop Grumman saw the largest increase with a 37% rise. These private defense contractors hold significant influence over US defense contracts, with the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act allocating a record $886 billion in defense spending, nearly half of which is expected to flow to these arms manufacturers. However, the reach of the US military-industrial complex extends beyond defense contracts, also including substantial funding for lobbyists. One such interesting development during the conflict is the notable increase in pro bono advocacy for Ukraine, which are pushing for increased US military support. Media reports indicate that 25 foreign lobbying and consulting firms have volunteered to represent Ukrainian interests, a significant rise from the pre-crisis figure of 11. This surge suggests that these pro bono efforts are driven more by private interests than by national interests. For instance, the New York Times reported that Raytheon paid BGR Government Affairs $240,000 for lobbying on its behalf in 2022. EGR, which is one of the lobbying firms that began working as pro bono for Ukraine. Another approach through which the US military-industrial complex reinforces its influence is by providing financial support to think tanks. A report released by the Quincy Institute in the previous year found that of the 27 think tanks in the US whose donors could be identified, 21 received funding from the defense industry. This financial support amounted to a significant 77% of the total funding for these think tanks. To advocate and to gain access to the defense funds, these giant contracting firms also hire high-ranking government officials, facilitating their transition to lucrative positions with substantial paychecks within the defense contractor firms after they retire from their government roles. In an article published by The Nation, the authors highlight the revolving door mechanism, which gives current members of Congress, their staff, and Pentagon personnel a strong incentive to maintain favorable relationships with major defense contractors while still in office. The article also notes that after all, there is always a lucrative lobbying career waiting for the high-ranking government officials once they retire from their government service. A report released by the Office of Senator Elizabeth Warren in April last year uncovered that almost 700 former high-ranking US government officials, including ex-generals and admirals, are currently employed by defense contractors. As the US military-industrial complex continues to profit from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, concerns are raised about the potential consequences. The surge in weapons sent to Ukraine has led to the diversion of arms into the local black market, introducing uncertainties about the security of Ukraine and beyond. Furthermore, the substantial military spending has started to crowd out other areas of expenditure, echoing historical precedents like the Vietnam War era, which contributed to an overheated US economy and high inflation. The war in Ukraine, intentionally or unintentionally, has triggered a substantial economic surge for the US defense industry. While the financial gains for the military sector have been considerable, the long-term impacts on both the global arms trade and the US economy require careful analysis of the complex, interconnected dynamics